I never thought a garden could start a war. To me, my backyard was more than a patch of dirt, flowers, and old decorations. It was a living scrapbook of my life, filled with memories, stories, and little pieces of my past. Every clay pot, every cracked statue, even the rusty old wheelbarrow leaning against the fence told its own tale. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And for years I thought that was enough. But then the HOA decided to tell me otherwise. The first letter came on a Thursday morning, folded neatly inside an envelope with the HOA's sharp logo at the top. The bold words across the page made my stomach tight. Your property has been found in violation of community standards. Your garden resembles a junkyard and is diminishing neighborhood aesthetics. I stared at the words as if they were a personal attack on my soul. Junkyard, that's what they thought of the place I poured my love, sweat, and memories into. I felt the heat rising in my chest, but I folded the letter and set it aside. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe a neighbor had complained out of jealousy or spite, and the HOA simply followed procedure. I told myself I wouldn't overreact, but the truth was my mind was already burning. By the next week, the second letter arrived. This time it wasn't just a warning, it was a fine. $250 for failure to comply with community landscaping rules. My hands shook as I held the paper. Anger, sharp and suffocating, filled me like smoke in a closed room. They weren't just insulting me anymore, they were trying to break me, to punish me into obedience. I stormed outside, staring at my garden through new, furious eyes. The worn wind chimes that had belonged to my mother. The bird bath with the chipped edge where sparrows gathered every morning. The wooden trellis leaning slightly but strong enough to hold the wild roses that climbed it. To me it was beauty, to them it was garbage. I whispered under my breath, how dare they? That evening I decided to confront them. The HOA president, a sharp-tongued woman named Linda, lived just 3 houses down. I marched to her porch, letter clutched in my hand, and knocked harder than I should have. When she opened the door, her smile was tight, rehearsed, like she'd been expecting me. "Good evening," she said, her tone dripping with the kind of politeness that wasn't polite at all. "Evening," my voice was already trembling with rage. "Do you call this good? Do you call sending threatening letters and fines to people good?" Her eyebrows arched. "If you're referring to the notices about your property, then yes, I call it necessary. You've been neglecting your responsibilities as a homeowner in this community. Your yard is cluttered, it lowers property values, It's my garden," I snapped, cutting her off. "Do you understand that? It's not clutter, it's memories, it's mine. Who gives you the right to call it junk?" She folded her arms, her smile tightening even more. "We all agreed to the HOA rules when we bought into this neighborhood. Those rules exist to protect everyone's investment. Your garden, as you call it, doesn't meet the standards. It looks like, well, a junkyard." The word stung like a slap. Junkyard. She said it so casually, like my work, my heart was nothing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the smug look off her face. But instead, I bit down on my fury and said, "You can find me all you want. I'm not tearing apart my life's work for your so-called standards." Her eyes flickered with something, maybe annoyance, maybe triumph. "Then you'll keep paying, and eventually, if you can't, we'll pursue further action. You should understand, refusing compliance isn't an option." I turned and walked away before I could explode. My hands were trembling, my chest tight. Every step back to my house felt heavier, like I was dragging the weight of their judgment with me. Inside, I slammed the letter onto the table and sat in silence, my thoughts spinning. How dare they? Who were they to decide what beauty was? My garden was my refuge, my story. But to them, it was an obstacle, a blemish on their perfect little image, and they wouldn't stop until they crushed me. The fines kept coming. $250, then $500, then $750. Every envelope that landed in my mailbox felt like a fresh insult, a calculated attack meant to wear me down. Neighbors began whispering. I could feel their eyes on me when I watered the flowers, their judgment pressing against my back like heat from the sun. Some avoided me, others smirked. The isolation cut deeper than I wanted to admit. One evening, as I knelt by the roses, trimming away dead branches, a boy from next door wandered over. His name was Evan, 16, maybe 17, sharp-eyed, curious, always lingering around like he was hungry for conflict. "Hey," he said, leaning against the fence. "Why don't you just clean it up? Everyone's talking about it. They say you're being stubborn, that you're making the neighborhood look bad." I looked up at him, sweat dripping down my forehead, and felt a strange mixture of pity and fury. "Do you think it looks bad?" I asked. He hesitated, then shrugged. "I mean, kinda, it's different. There's a lot of stuff, doesn't really look like the other houses." My chest tightened. Even he, a boy, could see it through their eyes. It's not supposed to look like the other houses, I snapped. It's mine, it has meaning, not everything has to be picture perfect to be beautiful. He smirked, almost taunting. But if everyone else thinks it's ugly, does your opinion really matter? You can't fight the whole neighborhood. The words hit me like a punch. My hands clenched around the shears. I wanted to shout at him, to tell him he didn't understand, that he was just a child, but instead my voice came out sharp, trembling with the weight of everything I'd bottled up. Get off my property. His smirk faltered, replaced with surprise, maybe even fear. He muttered something under his breath, but he backed away. Still, the damage was done. His words echoed in my mind all night. Does your opinion really matter? By the next morning, the HOA's threat escalated. Another letter arrived, this one colder than the rest. Failure to comply will result in legal proceedings. Continued non-payment of fines may result in foreclosure actions. Foreclosure, the word made my blood run cold. They weren't just trying to find me anymore, they were trying to take my home, my sanctuary, my life. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the letter until the words blurred. My hands shook as I whispered to myself, they want me gone, they won't stop until I'm gone. And in that moment, something in me snapped. The decision to fight back wasn't a choice anymore, it was survival. I couldn't let them push me into a corner like some helpless victim. My garden wasn't junk and my home wasn't theirs to take. But anger, once it takes root, grows like wildfire, spreading into every corner of your thoughts until you can't see straight. The very next evening, I dragged an old rocking chair from my garage and placed it right in the middle of the yard, between the roses and the bird bath. I sat there, arms folded, daring anyone to come and tell me my garden didn't belong. For hours I stared at the street, waiting for the whispers, the judgment, the glances that stung like knives. And they came. One by one, neighbors slowed their walks, turned their heads, muttered under their breaths. Their faces blurred together, disdain, disgust, pity. I saw it all. Then, as if fate wanted to twist the knife deeper, Evan showed up again. This time he had his phone in his hand, pointed right at me, recording. "What do you think you're doing?" I barked, my voice carrying louder than I meant. "Documenting," he said, smirking. "Everyone wants to see what the crazy garden lady does next. You're kinda famous, you know. The HOA says you're the reason property values are dropping. My mom says you're stubborn. My dad says you'll lose everything. I just wanna see the show." His words were gasoline on the fire already burning inside me. My whole body trembled. "Is this funny to you? You think my life, my home, is some kind of entertainment?" He shrugged, the smug grin plastered across his face. "Kinda, you're making it into one." I shot up from the chair, my hands shaking with fury. "Delete it now." He laughed, actually laughed. "What are you gonna do if I do?" For a moment, I saw red. My voice rose, raw and desperate. "You don't understand what this place means to me. You don't understand what they're trying to take away. And you, standing there mocking me, what gives you the right? You're just a boy." His eyes flashed, and suddenly the smirk was gone, replaced by something colder, sharper. "A boy who sees what everyone else sees, junk, trash, you call it memories, but it looks like you're hoarding broken pieces of nothing. No wonder the HOA wants you gone." The words cut deep, sharper than any blade. For a split second I thought about grabbing his phone, smashing it against the ground, anything to silence him. But I stopped, my fists trembling at my sides. He wanted me to explode. He wanted a scene, and I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. "Get out," I whispered, my voice breaking under the weight of my anger. "Get out before I lose control." His smirk faltered for a moment, but he quickly recovered. He muttered something and walked off slowly, deliberately, as if reminding me that this battle wasn't just with the HOA anymore, it was with everyone around me. That night I didn't sleep. I paced the kitchen, replaying every word in my head. Junk, trash, crazy. The more I thought about it, the more the walls felt like they were closing in. It wasn't just the HOA, it wasn't just the neighbors, it was the whole world conspiring to strip me of everything I loved. By the next HOA meeting, my fury had boiled over. I stormed into the community hall where they gathered, my stack of fines clutched in my hands like weapons. Dozens of faces turned toward me, some shocked, some amused, most hostile. At the head of the table sat Linda, her lips curled in that same smug smile. "Ah, there she is," she said, her voice smooth and cold. "We were wondering if you'd show up. Do you have something you'd like to say?" "Something?" My voice cracked with rage. I have everything to say. You think you can bully me into submission with your rules and your fines? You think you can strip away my memories, my life, because it doesn't fit your picture-perfect idea of beauty? Let me tell you something, this garden means more to me than your entire HOA ever will, and I won't let you destroy it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Linda leaned forward, resting her chin on her hands like a predator watching prey. We've given you every chance to comply, instead you've chosen defiance. Your so-called garden lowers the standards of this community. People are embarrassed to live near you, and if you don't take responsibility, we'll have no choice but to escalate matters legally. I slammed the fines onto the table, the papers scattering like a storm. You call this responsibility, bleeding me dry with fines until I can't breathe, threatening foreclosure because I won't bend to your will? That's not community, it's tyranny. A man from the crowd stood up, red-faced. She's right about one thing, this isn't a garden, it's a dump. Every time I drive past your house, it makes me sick. If you can't respect the rules, then get out. Another voice chimed in, then another. The room buzzed with accusations, jeers, laughter. My heart pounded in my chest, rage and humiliation swirling together until I could barely think. Silence, I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. The room went still for a moment, all eyes on me. You want me gone because I don't fit your mold, you want me broken, beaten, erased, but I won't give you that satisfaction. This is my home and I will fight you until my last breath if I have to. Linda smirked, leaning back in her chair. We'll see about that. I stormed out of the hall, my body shaking with adrenaline. Outside, the night air hit me like a wall, but it didn't calm me. My fury only grew, twisting into something darker. They weren't just neighbors anymore, they were enemies. And Evan's smirking, mocking was their mouthpiece. The days after that meeting felt like walking through a battlefield. Every time I stepped outside, I could feel eyes on me, neighbors pausing in their driveways, whispering behind half-closed blinds, exchanging knowing looks as if I had already been condemned. The HOA had painted me as the villain, and the neighborhood had swallowed the story whole. The fines kept coming, each envelope heavier than the last, as though they wanted the weight of paper alone to crush me. $1,000, $1,250, threats escalating. Words like foreclosure and legal seizure carved into my chest like blades. My sanctuary, my garden, my memories, they wanted to erase them and me along with it. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the sky, I found myself sitting in the rocking chair in the garden again, the place where I had confronted Evan. The roses around me glowed faintly in the light, the chipped birdbath reflected the sky like cracked glass, and the wind chimes sang softly in the breeze. For a moment it was peaceful. For a moment I could almost forget the war outside. But then footsteps crunched against the gravel path. I turned and there he was again, Evan, phone in hand, that same smug grin carved into his face. Still fighting? He asked, voice dripping with mockery. Everyone says you're gonna lose, my mom says you'll be forced out by the end of the month. Honestly, I'm kinda impressed you lasted this long. My chest tightened. The fury that had been simmering all day erupted like fire in my veins. You don't know anything, I spat. You stand there with your little phone recording my pain like it's entertainment, but you don't know what it means to fight for something you love. You don't know what it's like to have everything you've built threaten to be ripped away. He tilted his head, pretending to think. Maybe not, but I know what it looks like when someone's losing, and you're losing. The words hit like a hammer to the skull. My breath came in ragged bursts. Get out, I hissed. Get out before I... Before you what? He cut in, stepping closer, daring me. Scream again, cry about your memories. You call it a garden, but everyone else sees a junkyard. And honestly, they're right. Something inside me snapped. My voice rose, raw, furious, unstoppable. Don't you dare call it a junkyard. Don't you dare stand here and mock what you don't understand. Every single piece of this garden has meaning. My mother's chimes, my father's tools, the trellis he built with his hands. You think that's trash? You think their memories are trash? For the first time, his smirk faltered. But then, like a knife twisting deeper, he said quietly, memories don't pay fines. Memories won't stop the HOA from taking your house. Maybe it's time to let go. The words cut deeper than anything Linda had ever said. I staggered back, my knees weak, my hands trembling. This boy had just spoken the very fear I had been running from. What if I really did lose? What if they did take everything? But the fear twisted into something else. Fury, defiance, fire. You listen to me, I said, my voice low but shaking with power. They can take their fines and their rules and choke on them. This is my home, my garden, my life, and I will not let them erase me, not now, not ever. Evan stared at me for a moment, his face unreadable. Then he turned and walked away without another word, his phone still clutched in his hand. That night I couldn't sleep. The words replayed in my head, echoing over and over, maybe it's time to let go. No, it wasn't time. If anything, it was time to fight harder. The next HOA meeting was the breaking point. The hall was packed, the air heavy with tension. Linda sat at the head of the table like a queen on her throne, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. She wanted a show, she wanted me broken. I stood in the center of the room, my stack of fines in one hand, my voice trembling but loud. You think you can take everything from me? You think you can strip away my memories, my home, my life, because it doesn't fit your perfect little picture? But I will not bow, I will not break. Linda smirked, leaning forward. You've already broken, you just don't see it yet. You're drowning in fines, in debt, in isolation. The community has spoken, you don't belong here anymore. The crowd murmured, voices rising, accusations, insults, laughter, faces blurred together, a sea of judgment pressing down on me. My chest heaved, my vision blurred. But through the noise I heard a single voice, sharp, mocking, cutting through the crowd like a blade. Evan, he was there standing at the back, phone in hand, recording. Just give up already, he called. You've lost. The room erupted in laughter. My hands shook so violently I thought I might collapse, but then something inside me roared to life. I slammed the stack of fines onto the table, the papers scattering across the floor like snow. The sound silenced the room. You call this justice? I shouted, my voice echoing. You call this community? No, this is tyranny, this is cruelty. You want to erase me because I don't fit your mold. But hear me now, I will fight you with every ounce of strength I have. You will not take my home, you will not take my memories, you will not take me. For a moment the room was silent, then Linda's smile sharpened, cruel and triumphant. Then we'll see you in court. The meeting ended in chaos, voices shouting, papers scattered, neighbors glaring. I walked out into the night, my heart pounding, my hands trembling. I was exhausted, broken, but not defeated. Not yet. The days that followed were a blur of legal threats, mounting fines, and endless whispers. But through it all, I fought. I filed appeals. I gathered evidence. I documented every flower, every decoration, every piece of history in my garden. I refused to be silenced. Evan still lingered, still recording, still mocking. But sometimes I caught something else in his eyes, hesitation, uncertainty, even guilt. Maybe he was beginning to understand, maybe not, it didn't matter. My fight wasn't with him, my fight was bigger. The climax came in the courtroom. The HOA, with their lawyers and their smug confidence, faced me across the polished floor. Linda sat in the front row, her smile sharp, her eyes gleaming with victory. But I stood tall, my voice steady, my evidence laid bare. I told the judge what my garden meant, what it represented, how it wasn't junk but history, memory, life itself. When the ruling finally came, it felt like the world held its breath. The judge spoke slowly, carefully, each word like a drop of water on parched earth. The court finds that the HOA has overstepped its authority. The homeowner's garden, while unconventional, does not constitute a violation warranting fines or foreclosure. The fines are dismissed. The HOA is ordered to cease further harassment. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, outrage. Linda's face drained of color, her smile shattered. I closed my eyes, tears streaming down my cheeks, my body shaking with relief. I had won. Against all odds, I had won. When I walked out of the courtroom, the sun was shining brighter than it had in months. My garden was safe, my home was safe, my memories were safe. Evan stood outside, phone in hand, but this time he wasn't smirking. His eyes met mine, and for a moment he looked almost ashamed. He lowered the phone and said quietly, I didn't think you'd make it, but you did. I stared at him, my heart still pounding, my emotions raw. I told you, I whispered, I won't let them erase me. He nodded slowly, almost respectfully. Then he walked away, his phone tucked into his pocket. That night I sat in my garden, the wind chimes singing softly, the roses glowing in the moonlight. The battle had scarred me, broken me, nearly destroyed me, but in the end I was still here, stronger, fiercer, unshaken. And as I rocked in the chair, I whispered to the night, to the roses, to the memories all around me. You tried to bury me, but I refused to be erased. The war was over, and I had won.